Looking for a fun 80s style fantasy with a mustachioed druid? Look no further. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will be talking about Becoming a Druid by Mollman, the first book in the Protectors of Pirani. And this one was a really enjoyable read, and I make the joke about kind of 80s style because that's just what this makes me think of. It feels kind of just like that style where it's kind of like fun and light in tone, but also there's still some like deeper consequences and like serious parts as well. But it just kind of gives that feel. It's one of those books where I feel like if you would have told me this was published like a long time ago and it isn't like a current book, I would have believed you. But I mean that in a very good way and not anything negative at all about it. That's just kind of the style it reminds me of, and sometimes it's just so refreshing to read a book like this. And we follow in Becoming a Druid. I'm pretty sure it's Grom, because there's a comment early on where it's mispronounced as Grommy, so I'm pretty sure it's just Grom, who is an apprentice druid who's gone through a really turbulent time with his previous two masters and is on kind of his last chance with a new master in order to still become a druid. And then most of the book is following his quest, which is kind of like the initiation to become a druid, the final to become a journeyman. You have to go on a quest and complete it successfully. And so we do spend, like I said, a large portion of this kind of going on that quest. Now, I love a good quest trope. It's just one of the tropes that works really well for me. And this, once again, kind of has that feel where he's going on his quest, some things go wrong, he meets some different people along the way, and there's all of the trials in there. And even like I said, the more serious parts with it still manages to keep that just nice tone that just makes this a very enjoyable read as well. So it does a great job. And honestly, too, like, how often do you see druids featured in books these days? Because, like, I know, like, some, like, Forgotten Realms stuff, and probably in some of the Dragonlance stuff, too, definitely has druids. I know Forgotten Realms does. And so I've read some of that, and that kind of feel, too, where it's, you know, that style of probably something that would be similar here. I think if you like Dragonlance, Forgotten Realms, that sort of thing, you would find a lot to like here. But even if you don't, this is kind of a more modern version. This doesn't at all feel like it's, you know, based on, you know, a game or anything like that either. It just kind of has that similar, like, fairly light, fun tone, even with the more serious parts, but doesn't do it where it feels like it's clashing. There's some great dialogue and just great scenes and everything going on here with what is set up. And the world of the Druids and the way that it's set up too, you get to learn quite a lot about the Druids. And the one thing that immediately just made me chuckle is when Druids transform into animals, which they can't do here. It's called animorphing. And so immediately I just start thinking of that old book series, The Animorphs. And I got a good chuckle out of it. And so it's like, it is an incredibly fitting term and it makes sense, but that just triggered that like core memory. I couldn't tell you the last time I thought about animorphs. And so that was a really fun little aside just early on that I got. I was joking around in Discord. But so it's the way that that's put, where there are different druidic powers, including being able to transform into animals, degrees of control with the weather, and there's other pieces there. And we get to learn more about that through the training as well as through the quest as our druid here travels around trying to complete it. The enemy here specifically is a very powerful mage who can do mind control, and we're told that apparently there are people who just that exist as well who can control minds, and so that puts a really interesting wrinkle in here as well when you're dealing with literal mind control versus druids and the quest. And then there's also like some disagreements and political factions among the druids even themselves going different routes, and so it's all of this kind of together that Grom is using as he's trying to go and just complete his quest, because he just wants to be a druid. And all of this, like I said, it was a pretty quick read too. This is like a little under 400 pages. And so a fairly quick read, and like I said, it was just a nice and refreshing and a fun read as well. I had to joke about the mustache because he really does have a mustache. I don't know if you can see that or not, but so take that, Alan, with the mustache. But like I said, just felt like that really kind of like old school type of fantasy. Not to say classic style fantasy where it's like slower and more descriptive. This has a quicker pace, and so it's more just, I don't know. I don't know that I can define old school either, but that's where I kind of talked about the different kind of things. This feels like it could almost be something from like the Forgotten Realms. In a way, except it's not using existing lore, it's kind of setting up its own thing. And the amount that's able to be set up while we're going on the quest, I think is really impressive and really, really well done here in this book, because, once again, I already like the quest trope. It's one of those things that used to get used a lot. It's a little less so now. It's still around, but it's just something I enjoy. But when you're doing the quest, we're learning more about druids and the world and the different groups of people, the people that are enemies. This takes place like on an island. We know there's a mainland, and they don't necessarily get along either. So there's a lot set up here in a great way, and we get just a little bit of everything. We have some like buddy traveling at points. We get interesting and unique characters. We have little elements of romance and a fair amount of action as well. And just kind of all of the different pieces together here just makes this a really fun and enjoyable read. And so I had a great time with this as well. And so, like I said too, and I don't want to make it sound like this is silly by any means either, there's definitely some, like, you know, the witty, sarcastic dialogue that we get throughout as well. It does still have more serious parts. It just isn't like you see with a lot of books that are going for more of a grimdark thing, where it's like really like in your face, like deep and dark. This is more like, hey, this is what's happening with the world, but we're still our characters are still going through and doing it, and it's just not like really, really pushed it for the dark elements, but it has a lot of serious moments as well. You know, we have bad things happen as well, as you may see on any quest, including people hurt, people killed, that kind of thing. So you're still getting all that kind of stuff. This isn't like oh, let's go on a quest type thing either. But it's it really, just like I said, very, very enjoyable read going through this one. I did both the physical and ebook for this to kind of get through. I should mention as well, because I just realized I completely forgot. I was sent the physical copies of the first two books from the author, Mike Mollman, and so that's how I'd gotten them. And then I ended up picking up the ebooks as well, just to do multi-formats. So I was sent these by the author for an honest review, and he had just actually sent these out to me with a letter, and so I got them, and I'd been meaning to get these and try them, and really, really pleasantly surprised, and so just had a really fun time with this one. I feel like there's a good chance too that my ratings kind of go up from this first one. This was a very strong 4 for me, because I really didn't have a ton of complaints about this book. It really, really did a great job setting up. It didn't like blow me away with anything, but just had a really fun time reading it as well. And it's some of the things it set up. There were a couple parts that were a little bit odd, and I feel like I understand what the author was going for with them, but I'm really interested to see where this goes, because this the quest and everything and how this book ends is really, really setting up what's going to be happening with the next books. And so I'm really curious to see. I feel like we're going to really up the ante with those books, and I'm very interested to see where that goes. So I will hopefully be getting to book 2, which I also do have to speak with elders within the next month or two, because I'm very, very curious to see where this one goes. So I'll definitely update once I do get that one read. Those really, though, are my thoughts on Becoming a Druid by Mike Mollman. Definitely one to check out if you want a kind of old school, really entertaining read, that especially if you're into Druids, because like I said, you don't have a lot of options for Druids, at least to my knowledge. If there are a bunch of Druid books that I just don't know about, entirely possible, but I don't feel like you get a lot of Druids anymore, so it was just kind of fun reading about Druids, because it's just not something I've read a ton about, and so always cool there as well. Yeah, let me know your thoughts if you have read this, or if this sounds interesting to you, or if there are a bunch of Druid books that I'm not aware of, because I would be curious, to be honest. So definitely let me know your thoughts. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the link in the description, as always, for the Wizardly Duo Discord. If you want to chat books, whether this book, other books, any books, really anything at all, is a lot of fun, and we'd love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.